Treatment. This video will cover how to properly treat with our product. This video series is an introductory training course intended to give better understanding of the use of our product. It is meant to assist with each company's internal training and is not meant to be interpreted as a complete training program. Your company trainer may use these videos to assist in training inspectors and applicators. Any employees viewing these videos should refer any questions they have to their company trainer or trainers. XT-2000 Incorporated is available to assist trainers should they have any questions or require additional training. Treating the full structure. With proper techniques, the XT-2000 system can treat an entire structure for drywood termites. The diagram illustrates a hypothetical termite infestation of 12 colonies, noted in red over 59 linear feet of wood. Some of these areas may seem inaccessible without the use of a more drastic method of treatment. However, the scope and treat method enables the user of XT-2000 to treat areas within wall voids in a simple and efficient manner. This diagram demonstrates how commonly excessive treatment is recommended. Typically, the infested wood of a home measured in linear feet is less than 1% of a total combined framing length. Why overtreat when we only need to treat the areas of infestation? What to do before treatment begins. Before any treatment starts, it is always recommended to walk an entire job site first. This will ensure proper planning for time management. This will also ensure that you locate everything needed to be done. If there are any questions, they can be brought up first thing instead at the end of the day when it may be harder to reach the inspector or may drag out the job time. The treatment process. After locating an area of infestation, drill the recommended drill pattern, staggered in areas of infestations. Drill at least 30 inches in all directions from the last point of active signs of drywood termites. This will maximize the coverage of a single treatment and will ensure that you have gone far enough. Once drilled, insert the B&G tip and inject XT-2000 for a sufficient period of time to permeate the wood members up to a minute per hole. When treating an infested area, it is essential to use an effective drill pattern. When drilling, it is important to have a variety of bits so that the infested boards can be deeply penetrated without passing through the entire board. Your pattern should be staggered, not perfectly straight. Use a W pattern when drilling to treat. You want to hit different grains and termite galleries. Depending on the thickness of the board or beam, drilling from both sides may be required for good penetration and saturation. To get the maximum amount of XT-2000 into the wood, set your drill bit as deep as possible without going completely through the framing. This picture is a prime example of an area that should be treated from both sides or with a longer drill bit due to the thickness of the beam to be done properly. This infestation clearly started on the outside and worked its way indoors. Remember, look beyond what's in front of you. Think outside the box, considering proper length, proper depth, and positioning of the pattern for adequate treatment. In this case, proper length means treat an outside section of the beam as well as the inside. Drill patterns. The diagram shows the suggested treatment pattern for wood framing. Drill holes will vary on spacing depending on the location of treatment. Also, depending on thickness of boards. Drill holes up to a minimum of 30 inches from either side of a kickout or from the last point of active infestation. Different situations will call for different treatment patterns. You may have to spread out the injection holes of your W pattern farther apart or even overlap. The treatment process. Drilling. When injecting XT-2000, it is important to use a generous amount of product. The key to XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus is getting enough of the product into the wood to absorb and travel through the porous cells of the termite channels, so it is crucial to inject an ample amount. When using the B&G injector, it is more effective to utilize a lower pressure, as a higher pressure will encourage resistance. A lower pressure will ensure that XT-2000 is soaking through the porous cells of the wood being treated. The ideal pressure for your B&G is 14.5 psi, depending on the type of wood being treated. Inject each hole for a minimum amount of 5 seconds per hole at the counting pace of 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, etc., up to an actual minute. It is sometimes helpful to start injecting directly at the location of the kickout. As the liquid flows through the termite gallery, the other holes of the drill pattern may begin to drip product and provide further evidence of areas of infestation. Then, inject XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus into the holes where it spreads throughout the wood framing, killing termites and termite eggs on contact. When applied correctly, there is no escape for termites. Using a rag during treatment is always recommended to reduce sprayback, as well as catch any product that drips from other holes when galleries are full. The treatment process, scoping. An area to be scoped is to be identified on the Wood Destroying Organism Report as KIA and also marked as such. When pellets are identified in the voids, it is considered dirty, jargon for pellets in the void, and considered clean if scopes consistently using the scoping rules find no pellets. Very important to note that when a void has been called dirty, a supplemental WDO report must be issued describing the identified area or areas and the treatment method used. If termite activity is identified near and leading into inaccessible areas, scope the adjacent void and any additional voids until evidence no longer occurs. Hint: be aware of wires, plumbing, electrical boxes, and other hidden dangers behind the wall. When pellets are identified in the wall void, scope the adjoining wall voids. If found clean, only treat the original infestation and don't forget to note that it's scoped clean. If evidence is found on a windowsill, scoping above and around the window will be required to determine the extent of the infestation. Remember, keep scoping additional voids until evidence no longer occurs. The treatment process, covering evidence. If evidence is not covered after scoping, how will you identify new evidence if you're ever called back to check the same area? Remember, now that evidence is visible, you have to cover it. By law, you're required to remove or cover visible evidence. Also, this prevents confusion between old evidence and new evidence. Use a bulb duster to cover evidence in wall voids. The treatment process, scoping. It is very important to keep in mind that signs of termites are the same no matter where they are located. Evidence looks the same seen through a scope in inaccessible areas as it does when seen with the naked eye. There are no false positive identifications when you're looking directly at evidence, even with scopes. These pictures are examples of termite droppings seen through a scope. These pellets can clearly be identified and won't be mistaken for anything else. These pictures also prove activity in a wall void. When there is reason to believe termite infestation extends into inaccessible areas such as wall voids, a stud finder is a helpful tool for locating studs and other wood members. Once the suspected area of termite infestation is located, drill an entry point leading into the inaccessible area and insert the optic scope. Hint: scoping from the other side of the wall may be required when you encounter a bathroom or portion of the wall that can't be drilled from a certain side. If a concealed area is found to be infested using an optical scope, simply drill and treat the wood member using XT-2000 and patch when finished. These pictures show scoping done from the outside and inside of a structure. They also show proper placement of the scope near the bottom of a wall void, which we will now cover in more detail. The treatment process, scoping. When scoping, remember most inaccessible voids have insulation in them depending on when they were constructed. So when making your scope holes, always try to place near studs and as close to the bottom of voids as possible. This will make sure that you can see the evidence without fighting with the insulation. Droppings will fall and sift down, so scope down where they were naturally going to end up. When scoping these areas, use a long skinny screwdriver or something similar to pry the insulation out of the way. Do not use the scope to move the insulation out of the way because it will eventually break or scratch the lens to the point where you won't be able to see. Hint: be sure to continue the scope until 2 abutting clean voids are found, approximately 30 inches. The treatment process, using discretion. When drilling to scope or treat, choose areas that will not affect your clients. There are 2 sides to every wall. try to pick the side to drill that will be at least inconvenient and less of an eyesore for your client. This can be the outside of a wall, the backside of rafters or fascia, or areas that your client does not often see. Treat from the other side of the wall when you encounter a bath unit, commode, bathtub, built-in cabinets, or anything else that would prevent a more direct application. This also works for wood paneling and wallpaper. The treatment process, scoping. When inspecting and treating, take a minute to think about possible factors. Look for electrical sockets or plumbing to help give an idea of what's going on in these inaccessible areas. Time spent on evaluating each situation will be far cheaper than running into some of these possible issues. The treatment process, patching. Once the holes are patched, the customer will barely know the technician was there. The sweet smell of oranges will remain. The better the patch, the better the customer feels. Carry different types of wood putty, stucco patch, and spackle to cover every type of wall. Hint: in order to drill for scoping or treating a wall covered with wallpaper, score an X or V pattern and pull back the wallpaper without removing. Hint: it is always better to allow the surface to dry before patching. The treatment process, using drop cloths. Use drop cloths to cover any furniture or floors when using XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus. If you should spill any XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus, make sure to wipe it up immediately. It should evaporate quickly once a product is wiped up. XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus can damage finishes and other items if left on for too long, so it is essential to keep a clean work area. A customer's appliances and furniture should never be a resting place for your tools. Always use tarps for tools when working inside a customer's home or business. The use of tarps is an important step. They show the customer that you are taking care to protect their property. This picture demonstrates how much equipment and tools are sometimes needed. Without a drop cloth being used, the chances of damaging or dirtying a customer's property are likely. Always cover with tarp or drop cloth when treating directly over anything that can be damaged or possibly have something dropped on it. Tarps and drop cloths are just as important outside as they are inside. Customers don't want their plants, foliage, or landscape to be damaged or even incur further costs. Shoe covers can help to keep from scuffing floors or even tracking in dirt. Whole house warranty and service agreements. In order to give a customer a whole house warranty and renewal annual control service agreement, necessary steps are needed to protect the structure from future infestation. XT-2000 Orange Oil Plus recommends the use of Timbor, a borate solution to be sprayed on all exposed wood surfaces such as the attic, subarea, and garage framing. Any type of preventative product will help. Remember, not only will your customer feel more protected, it will drastically limit the amount of areas where reinfestation can occur. This concludes our presentation on treatment. Please continue to the quiz.